Welcome to the Wisdom Check by Tabletop to Keyboard. This is going to be our bi-weekly podcast where we discuss things such as Dungeons and Dragons. Actually, I think maybe we need to turn up my mic a little bit, guys. How about some more game?
This is the intro to end all intros. Talk about Dungeons, Dragons, and
Now, I don't think that's proper. This is a family show after all. This is the intro we can use, fellas. It's good, clean fun for everyone. Welcome to the Wisdom Check, where we have wholesome conversations about the dilemmas we face every day.
Nah, hold on a second. I got your intro right here. Yeah, that's better. Welcome to the Wisdom Check. When I'm right, just wrong, we're going to have guests on to talk about it. It's going to be awesome. Because I said so.
He is right. He did say so. I don't know. Is surf music the best music for a podcast about D&D?
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
This just in, nobody can agree on our intro for this podcast. So we're just going to start. Welcome to the Wisdom Check. Roll for initiative. Fuck. A 1. It's like every time.
All right. I believe you're alive. So,
I instantly lost all the stubble from the intro just now.
that quickly. He is clean shaven, unlike me. So everyone, welcome to the Wisdom Check. I am Dustin. With me over here is Jeff. And today we have our very special guest, DM Levi from our very own Everstorm game.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
It's exciting to not have to run the whole thing. Just talk about dumb stuff. It's going to be great.
Meantime, Clint's back here going, run everything. What the hell are you talking about? He's back here pulling all the levers and pulleys behind the scenes. So, ignore the man.
His is a different kind of run stuff, though. Like his is like break my brain. Everything he has to do.
Well, we are on the scene to actually talk quite a bit about our own homebrew game and just kind of the process you go through to deliver us a high quality game this whole time for God knows how many years has it been. It's probably been getting upwards to 20.
I don't know.
Most of those with you.
A long time.
Tab.
I know that the first game I played in with Levi was my freshman year of high school.
Wow.
Which means I was 15 years old, and I turned 40 this year. So for all of you who can do math,
wow,
that tells you how long ago it's been.
Yeah.
So. We're old, guys.
Yeah, we're old people.
I'm the only one who looks it, but we're old.
It's all secret sauce. So I guess we could talk about some of your favorite game settings, maybe initially, and like what got you into gaming to start with. Obviously, we've been there with you, but the audience hasn't seen that. So where did you start? Well,
stop me if I ramble, because I'm prone to ramble.
You're the guest. You're supposed to ramble.
That's dangerous. My first game, I was in 4th grade.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was a player. I was a player in 4th grade. No, was it 4th? I don't remember.
Close enough.
No. I'm wrong. It was in 6th grade.
Oh, okay. That makes all the difference.
Oh, yeah. Man. Hey, these details matter. So, in my hometown, our hometown, all of us, I got into the high school theater production because our high school, to get a big audience, would purposely cast as extras younger kids to force parents to show up.
Genius.
So all of us thought we were really awesome actors, but really it's just because we were like extras to force our parents and family to show up and buy tickets. It's a genius move. So I got in the show, and then I saw these guys in the backstage playing some game, and they weren't even rolling dice. There was no dice. It was just character sheets. And one guy's like, well, I'm a this and I'm a this. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Can I play? And somebody handed me a sheet, and the numbers were all out of whack. There were we each had thousands of hit points. And I was a pixie white mage. And I found out the DM was just making everything up with not even a rules book.
Nice.
And that's how I thought you play it first. And so then a friend got...
this is naturally how we got into homebrew, clearly.
Yeah, seriously.
Rules? What?
Yeah.
30 years later, and you're still making it all up yourself with the rule book sitting there behind you, unopened.
So then a friend, to prove us wrong, got the rules... Was it the Rules Cyclopedia? The Rules Cyclopedia, I think it's called, from Dungeons and Dragons Advanced but First Edition or something like that, and was correcting us on everything we were doing. And I was like, that sounds stupid. You start with 3 hit points. My last guy had 1,000. So I was really disappointed. So long story short, we started playing then, and then that guy that ran that game, I only knew him because I was in that high school show. So he wasn't a friend. He was a high school kid. I'm not going to see him all the time. So then I had to run my own game if I wanted game to. And that was kind of it. And the first one was Clint, who's behind the scenes, and 2 other guys. And it was at, I believe, Clint's house. Maybe. Yeah.
They look exactly like Stranger Things.
A lot. But not in a basement, in a front room situation, a foyer with a table.
It's classy.
And I gave everybody overpowered artifacts right out the gate.
That's how you do when you're a youngin'.
That were elementally themed. So there's the fire guy, acid guy. This is awesome.
It's so good. So good.
Yeah. It was very Voltron. I was like, everybody's going to have one cool thing. You're the guy with the cool boots. And you get the sword. And they're like, why don't I get the sword? It's really garbage. And like everybody, like every little kid, I just stole from pop culture. I got way into my own world and started drawing all my own crap because you're an art kid, and art kids draw their own stuff. Hey, Jay Bruce, welcome. And I don't know. From there, I started building up this place I was going to game in because we didn't have any. It was actually mother necessity was the reason we invented everything, because gaming stores, the closest gaming store to where we all grew up was an hour away. Because there wasn't one in Terre Haute at the time.
Right, yeah.
So the closest one was Champaign, and I didn't even know gaming stores existed.
Yeah, we had
for nerdly things, all you suburbos out there, the closest thing we came to nerdly stuff is a greeting card store. Sometimes had current comic books.
And they only had mostly X-Men titles. Like, people are like, why are X-Men your favorite comic? Because that's the one I could buy every week at the
right.
shop. That was the one that was there.
That was it. So the first comics I could get a hold of, I literally subscribed from a comic book insert I ripped out to Marvel itself, and they came in the mail. Folded. Wow. They came folded in half by the mailman.
Oh, brutal.
But at the time, I didn't know. I was so excited. I was like, yeah, there's Spider-Man in the mail. Anyway.
And it's really not any better.
God, this is the oldest old man podcast right now. I'm talking about getting my comics sent to me in the mail.
I know people still get mail. Yep. Just junk mail these days.
Couldn't find a gaming store, so had to write our own stuff because I was convinced you're supposed to write your own stuff. Because I didn't know of an alternative.
Just watching other people, or are you talking about just not having the resources available to you?
Not having the resources available, and I never saw anybody run out of a module, so I didn't know what a module was. Right. So I was really confused when I had the gaming store. I saw these really, really thin books. I'm like, the hell are these? And there's like, those are pre-made adventures. I'm like, what do you mean that's a how can you just like do whatever? And they're like, you can't.
The closest we came to a module or playing in a actual setting was when Butler read the books for, was it Greyhawk, I think? Maybe I've got the wrong one. But the one with Raceland and
Dragonlance.
That's Dragonlance.
Dragonlance. That when he then ran a game and had us running through basically that same story because he pulled it right from the books. He didn't have a module or anything. He just basically
Straight
pulled it
copy
right
of
from
the
the books.
and everything.
Yeah, but straight copy right out.
Everybody wants to be Raceland.
Right.
Everybody wants to
So
be
I actually got to be. I was playing the wizard. Turned out I got to be Raceland. So
you were the envy of the entire party.
And I never read a single one of those books. I have no idea who the character is other than what Butler told me. So
selfish.
But it was, yeah, it was, and I've been playing selfish characters ever since. I was
You're good. But you nailed it.
I'm good at it. So,
from an early age.
From an early age. So, but it was interesting because like I remember the first time when we fast forward several years when Bryce Cooper brought Ravenloft.
Yeah.
He came up with a Ravenloft book. We're going to play Ravenloft. And I was like, wait, what's this? I started flipping through a book. I'm like, okay, wait, it's still D&D, but like, it's like this whole weird other setting, right? So that was like the first time I think I really got introduced to like a setting where we actually played.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to hear BizLab's right with us on the old man gaming. So, chat, what are your experience with early gaming? Did you have kind of a similar situation where you had hard access to gaming books and that kind of thing? Or was it more prevalent even in those days for you? And while
we had to drive. Then we all kind of got so excited and lucky that around the time we were in high school, a gaming store opened in the closer of the large towns. And that was still a half-hour drive. So really we weren't able to get access to stuff till we were all able to drive in high school. Otherwise, you had to beg your parents to take you.
Right.
And that is the last place that your parents want to walk into.
Yeah. They're
like first time they walk in there with you, they never wanted to go back in again. So
the satanic panic stuff? Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, pretty much.
I had that. I was like, I got convinced. I walked up. I was in the 6th grade, and I walked to the guy running. It's like, is this stuff satanic? Am I gonna be in trouble for this? Am I a sinner? It's like, well, do you feel like one? I was like, no.
I'm ready to summon demons, man.
Okay, Bruce chiming in here. His first game was his 20th birthday in a garage in Greenwood. He's from Indiana, so he's not from too far from here. So.
You say you're from Greenwood? My parents are from Greenwood.
He was a fraternity brother. My name with Indiana State, so that's
very cool. So we got that. We got Crazy Ike saying he wasn't allowed to play. His parents didn't know. Secret society of gamers.
I remember the first time I told my mom and dad, like I didn't actually get into it, like I said, till high school. I was late to the party compared to some of you guys. And, so I come into high school and I remember my dad asked me where I'd been. I was like, I was over playing some D&D. And he goes, you joined a cult?
You joined a cult?
I was like, no, Dad. I didn't join a
To this day, my dad still doesn't really know what it is. Like I've tried every possible way I can to explain how it works. But Dad raced motorcycles. So we'd get done with the game and he knows that word. And I come home and he'd be like, did you win? I was like, Dad, there's no winner. I was like, Dad, you don't get it. Nobody wins. He's
Everybody gets a trophy though, man.
Right. The dad's like, you know, no winner, then why do you play?
That's a lot of time and money invested to not win, right?
Yeah. He's like, play 4 hours, you didn't win? Why'd you play? I was like, ah!
Hey, One Crit, welcome to the chat. BizLab was saying, let's see. Yeah, you got your stuff through the mail too. And your first retail buy was a first edition player's manual at Walden Books. Walden was really the place where we got everything.
Walden Books, yeah.
Go to the mall, go to
line right to that one section, and you're like, this is where I need to live.
Hope people didn't steal everything.
Yeah.
There would be the one book that was overpriced, and then you hope you had enough money.
I'm happy to say that at least now there's 2 game stores in Terre Haute. If you want to go over, you have a selection of 2 places you can go to. So at least
more than one.
There is one of them I prefer over the other, and that's one I go to, where I also run my live games. So it's real cool. I enjoy how much better it is. Like it's like almost an inviting type environment. You can like walk in there, and you don't like. It is clearly a game store, but like it's real nice, clean. Everything's like brand new. Like it's actually really nice. So
that's awesome.
I've been really happy with how it's been.
It's a different world, man. Totally different world.
It's just nicer now. It's cool to like what we like, which is weird. I'm not used to that.
It's so good. It's becoming so much more mainstream now. Like it's amazing. Like the people that play it, and like, you know, what part of Terre Haute? Jabers, what are you talking
directions?
He's asking where the gaming stores
Jabers wants to know where the gaming guru is in the
one
house.
on 7th Street. They're like 2 blocks from each other.
Oh, that's perfect. They won't cannibalize each other's interest at all.
Not at all. They're two very different. They're 2 very different stores. When you walk into one, it's very different than walking into the other. Just
is one like Warhammer out the gate, or
yeah, one's like a lot of Warhammer and a lot of that. And the other one is a lot of more card games and Blood Bowl.
Warhammer, the Cadillac of gaming. Do you have expendable income? Just toss it away.
Yeah.
Then Warhammer's for you.
We have a giant pit to burn your cash.
You just set it on fire.
You can't see it over here to my left, but I've got 7,000 points worth of vampire counts over there.
Oh my god!
It's funny you say that, because to my left is also probably about the same of combat warriors.
Chaos Warriors.
Chaos warriors, yes. Just ready to murder and be half painted.
So let's go through the time machine here a bit, Levi, and get up to a little more current time and talk a little bit about your creation. Well, still going back a ways. Talk about the creation of Limworld. How did you come to this point where you were like, I want to make one consistent world that I'm just going to keep making campaigns in? Like, when did you turn that corner?
Okay, so I wouldn't say. Okay, the creation was kind of like a retcon. So it was more that we all, as a group of friends, kind of reconvened after college. Pseudo through college, but then we really recombined after college. After college, another gaming group decided to play a third ed game because third ed had come out. And so it was like this big call. Let's support TSR. They're back. And I was like, holy shit, we got to play this game. So I convinced my girlfriend to play this game. She's like, what's this?
It's honestly amazing.
So we play, and it was good, but that group was really alpha about having to be committed to coming. And they, at the time, were a far drive for us. We drove from Champaign to Indy to... Where were we going at the time? I'm brain farting. Champaign to Bolingbrook. And then when they moved to Indy. Then we're driving from here to Indy. And then it got like, we game, they drink, you end up spending the weekend, and they were really diehard about like being timely. And it was a group of friends where they're just very so dedicated, it's a little culty almost. And my wife's like, this is a lot of effort for them to make you feel guilty. Can we just stop? I was like, and then after a while, I was like, yeah, I'm over this group. You know what? I'll just call up my old friends and I'll run my own game, and we'll run out of our house, and they're all cool and they're nothing like these guys. And so she's like, okay, fair enough. And so then the first game was at our little first apartment together before we got married. And that was the first origination of the 5. And I just ran a game. I didn't really think about it. And after that game ran its whole course and those characters retired, then the next iteration, I brought in you two. And that's when you were Gardner and you were Merrick Brew.
The monk.
And and after I brought you guys in, I was like, I'll bring in Pan and Ogle and see if they want to play. And then you guys started playing. And that's when I was like, oh, you know, it'd be so cool is if the last set of characters were retired in the same world and running around still doing stuff, because comedy in movie sequels, everybody loves callback. Everybody loves the familiarity of knowing that thing and having it show back up again. And you go, I know what that is. Like, so it's like catchphrases work all the time because callback feels good. So I was like, I'll have at least the callback of old characters that they love. And then they'll wonder what they're doing in this world and get like a tiny glimpse of what their daily life is and get the reassurance that the character they created is even more badass than when they ran them in the first place. And they get that like respect and love. And it wasn't until like the third session with the next set of characters, I was like, this should all be the same world from way back in the day. Like all of it should be the same. And I was like,
what you did with that.
I established the world so long ago. Why not? It's not like all these super old stuff is so consistent because I was young that any of it has a ton of threads that are strong enough for you guys to disagree or not remember something. Like, honestly, the oldest characters only Clint would know, and they're still technically out there, and I haven't established enough to say that, like, I've gone back on anything I've said. So, and Limworld is just vanity at the time. It's my initials. I mean, so, but at the same time, it's so old, I don't want to rename it. So even if it's a dumb name, I'm just going to keep it.
It works.
So there we go. That's about it.
So it looks like J Brews also does homebrew kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing homebrew? Have you done kind of what we're doing here with a similar same world and consistent through lines, or are you doing unique stuff in terms of a different world, different cast, and all that kind of stuff each time? Or what's your approach for that? And it's pretty fascinating that I honestly thought that when we were playing that it had always been a conscious decision from high school on to be the same campaign world.
It was way later that I thought, like, well, you know what? At the same time, I think there's a heavy comic book influence there. With comic books got me addicted on the idea of stories that don't end. And even though as a modern reader, I'm more frustrated with that now, and I'd prefer just wrap it up. Because, like, I know there are limitations to the Spider-Man story I read because he has plot armor. He can't die.
Or can't die for very long.
And if he does die, which he has to come back.
Eventually, right.
So the death is a high point in the plot, and then the return is a high point in the plot.
Right.
And I now, as a reader in comics, prefer stories that end. And that can have that bittersweet. I almost prefer the bittersweet to the hype of it just going on with more victory, victory, victory.
How old were you when you made that transition?
Oh, I don't know, because I used to hate it. Hate it. But then
I think that's true for most people. I think there's a certain point in life where something, I don't know when it is, but I had the same transition.
No, I know when I was like done. And I was like, you know what? We're better off. It's when Superboy Prime punched the walls of the universe so hard that it resurrected Robin. And around the same time,
Holy comics.
Around the same time, because I remember there was like an article I read around that time that said only 2 characters in comics have ever died and stayed dead. Now, of course, this article is super wrong and outdated, but it was the second Robin, Jason Todd, that the fans voted to die in the arc Death in the Family. And Bucky.
Yeah, Captain America's Bucky.
Both those dead as disco. And yet, Superboy Prime punches the walls of the universe because sure he does. And Robin comes back to life because of course he does. And then at around the same time, I want to say it's Ed Brubaker, but somebody feel free to correct me, said he's going to bring back Bucky and do it right. And everybody's like, please don't try and do this. It won't go well. And then we have Winter Soldier, and he actually did a great job, and it does make sense. But then it's just like, well, if those 2 characters, everybody said, have to stay dead, can come back, then nothing matters, and no one can die, and
I feel like there was a point we had this conversation as a group.
We sure did.
We were like, because I remember it almost, maybe not when you turned the corner, but I remember when we as a group sat down and had that talk. We were like, Levi, we want our characters to like not have plot armor. Like
I was,
I don't remember which game it was, but I remember we had this talk. It was definitely before the previous campaign.
It was
2 campaigns ago.
At least two campaigns ago. Yeah, because I was almost, I am an opposite end spectrum of a lot of DMs. There are the DM philosophy of a game should be a challenge and a puzzle for you to overcome, which I feel is very old school. It's like I'm presenting you with. It's how Abed talks about game when Abed runs the game in the episode of Community, the D&D episode, that it's a series of challenges and you have to overcome it, and the DM must be impartial. And if you die of your own stupidity, you shouldn't have been so stupid. And I was terrified of killing my players because I've had a character die and it feels awful. It just it ruins your night. And I don't want to ruin my friend's night, especially if some of them are going to drive an hour or 2 hours up just to have their character die. So at that time I was scared and I was like, I should use death as a story challenge to find a workaround that's plausible within my story, why they came back. And then that is at least a level of mystery. But then, I mean, Stan Lee created the X-Men, not because of anything cool. Them being mutants was happenstance. Stan Lee, and this is true, ran out of origin ideas. He couldn't think of any more. He's like, chemicals in the eyes? Nope, did that. Radioactive something? Not did that. Damn it. Cosmic ray? Nope. And then he's like, they're born that way. And now they're second-class citizens, and I can make it a civil rights. And then boom, the X-Men. So at some point, it's like I couldn't think of anything else, and it was getting repetitive, and it started to feel like plot armor. So we decided, we talked about it between every campaign. I'm very much about making my clients happy, that's like number one in running your game. Number one is your game should be fun because it's a game. And people have fun when they get kind of what they want, but also get surprised.
Right.
You can't give them what they want. Right. If you just give them what they want, good, I got it. And then they're done. But then they're like, it was predictable. It's like, God damn it. So it has to be half of what they want with a twist that surprises them and also leaves another level of mystery to investigate further. Right. Always have to have the next breadcrumb, the next door they haven't opened, or they feel done. And I have been the player at the table when I know my plot is done and I start to feel really disconnected from everybody else's plot because suddenly I don't give a shit. Because most players are inherently selfish about their plot. And once their plot's done, if they don't feel connected to the other players, they don't feel a reason to game anymore. So, the plot armor thing was a conversation. In between every campaign, I asked the guys, hey, I'm prepping the next thing. Big ideas. What big ideas do you want me to incorporate in the next game? And the funny thing is, the way a DM thinks, the way players think is always different. And I always forget it. Here I'm thinking the guys will be like, you know what? Maybe we should do like a Sky campaign, like with like birds and shit. Nope. What they said was, I want permadeath. And can we talk about how to do spell casting and working out these levels? And so they always give me like a nuts and bolts question, and I could give a fuck about it. So I'm like, just discuss it amongst yourselves, the nuts and bolts. Can we talk about Sky Pirates or not? Do you guys want to do Sky Pirates or not? Because I'm really gonna think about Sky Pirates. They're like, yeah, Sky Pirates sounds cool. I'm like, what about I don't know, elemental stuff? And you guys like, yeah, whatever. But what about permadeath? And I'm like, okay. Let's talk about permadeath. So permadeath was agreed upon democratically, which I think is a smart decision to have with your players. If everybody's invested in a choice, then you're a team and you're together. Right. Buy-in is important. When everybody feels like they have a piece of what's happening and they have ownership, then they take that ownership to heart, and everything isn't combative, it's collaborative.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm all about buy-in and ownership. I really am. So
you
whenever
do a really good job of it too.
Well, I try to. I don't know that I try to. I will say that I really like it when guys make something up in a backstory that I have to improv yes and.
Mhm.
And I really like that because then I can chuck it into my world and it's there. Like whether they realize it or not, literally every time the guys invent a new religion by saying this is their god and I haven't put that god into my game, they've now invented a new religion. It's just the question is how big is the religion, because it kind of doesn't matter. If there's only one cleric, then they come across as a weird cult member that's trying to spread their religion, but they still have powers. I'm not going to take their powers away.
Right.
So, yeah. So I really like when the guys bring something to the table. Oh, here's an example. Kodo is a great example in the current game. Kodo.
The Church of Chubb. Levi Clint.
Oh.
Church of Chubb. I don't want to derail you, but I saw that. I couldn't help it. That was.
I love the Church of Chubb so fucking much. Oh, that's a whole other story, but I'll get back to it.
A whole other story. So Kodo.
We'll do Church of Chubb another day. So Kodo is a great example. On a whim, and this was random. I didn't plan this. The guys were going to this island, and I did plan on there being a slave market where slaves are being up for sale because this island was in international waters. So nefarious stuff could be going on the island. And I wanted to sort of push the morality of the team so they could get the vibe for this is what real piracy is. Not ha ha ha, we stole your shit piracy. Real piracy. There's as much, it's a free island, which means terrible things are also happening here as well as fun. And they walked into a slave market, and at random, I only did this to make the audience seem exotic and mysterious. I added 2 Dragonborn. It's the first time Dragonborn have appeared in Limworld, and I didn't even think about it. And so because of that,
though, didn't we fight Dragonborn in the Scale Brigade?
We'll get to that.
Technicalities.
Technicality. I've had to retcon that now. And that took a lot of writing to make that work. So that was the first time Dragonborn appeared in my game, which was in this campaign. And then, so we play our game and everything's good. I was like, chuck it to Dragonborn, make a scene. Well, little did I know that Clint retires writing and's like, I'm going to play a Dragonborn. Fuck.
That's how it
I don't know where they come from. I don't know where the species originated. I don't know any of that shit. And then while I'm racking my brain trying to think about this, there's all this chatter about him playing a Dragonborn. And then I see Ogle, Balron's like, yeah, but what about the Scale Brigade? Weren't they Dragon? I'm like, fuck. Now, they were technically Draconians stolen from Dragonlance and color swapped, which would make them Dragonborn.
Copyright proof.
You know what I remember the most was the collars they had on that would explode when we killed them in melee. Mostly just to punish us who were melee characters at the time. That's what I remember the most about them.
Oh, they totally blew up on death.
They massively blew up on death.
They would explode on death. It was...
They blew up on death because the guys were getting too dangerous. So I realized, hey, I haven't tried suicide bombers. That would be awful.
Hey, remember the time it was really good to be a psionicist in that campaign?
Yeah, I fucking psionics. Don't even get me going on psionics. The most broken bullshit.
So you didn't have to just on the spot start creating where these Dragonborn were going to come from.
Plague State. Yeah, I basically took the idea that something terrible happens when they die. And I made them almost all explosive. I added a catalyst in story. This is so dumbly named. I added that the Draconians were growing these orchards with this kind of magical fruit trees. And I called them blast apples.
Yep.
I remember the blast apples.
Which gets portmanteaued into blapples. And I thought that was the dumbest thing in the world. Blapples. It's a blapple orchard.
The blapples.
And so basically, if the one that turned into a pool of acid, I think it was a Capek Draconian. I can't remember like basic facts about life, but I remember the name of a subspecies of Draconian.
Oh, jeez.
So Capek Draconians were based on coppers and pool of acid. So I was like, well, fuck it, let's blow them up. So then that's what I did. I blapples to blow them up.
And it's been 15 years and I still remember them.
I know, it's so sad. So sad. I don't know my son's phone numbers, but I know that.
That's what DMing does to you, right? Like, you create these worlds, you get so invested in them, but
such a bad
because
dad.
It's been such a part of your life for so long, like, it's hard to forget. Like,
Boz. Shit, I think I can name them all. Boz, Capac, Sivak, Orak. I'm skipping one. It's a bronze one. Bozak. Did I say them all? Shit. I know all 5.
That's nuts, dude.
So he plays a Dragonborn. Suddenly I have to explain where the Dragonborn fit in my world. Secondly, and arguably more important, why are they so unseen? Why do people not run into them very often? And then third, if people don't run into them very often, why were there a shit ton of them during the Scale Brigade that invaded another country seemingly without warning? And so that took a lot. I kept telling Clint, I was like, did some more writing. We're at this many pages now. So I think I wrote out like 5 pages of background to justify all of it. And because Kodo is a regular citizen and not a historian, he doesn't know it all.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I've written at least 4 pages of shit no one's read except me.
And may never read.
And may never read.
We may never read it. We may never know.
But I hate to say it, the writing helps me concrete the fluid creative process into rules that are followed.
Mm-hmm.
So I can always answer improv questions with gravitas, with some reality, some truth.
So in general, how much over development do you think you have to account for this improv situation? Because we throw a lot of that at you.
It's the world is a glass bubble. It seems stronger and more solid than it actually is. No, that's not a good analogy. It's a Fabergé egg. It's a Fabergé egg. It looks really detailed.
Mm-hmm.
But half the time when you guys ask me a question, I am improving the answer, more than half, and immediately writing down what I said, and then taking time after game to flesh that out to make sure it is now a consistency that doesn't change.
So now that we stream our games, or at least the majority of our games, do you go back and watch the streams instead of writing them down?
I have to go back. No, I have to go back and watch the streams sometimes to double check. Oh shit, I didn't write some stuff down during that time because I was too busy doing this, that, and the other. What did I say? And I have to go back and double check what it was to make sure I don't countermand myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's turning into a game Bible.
Which
really
is kind
quickly.
of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of neat now that we.
That's one thing I really like about streaming.
You have to, Jay Bruce. You have to, because I'm sorry, like it all, the illusion maintains reality as long as not go back on yourself, and it's one of the key things that like the 2 writers of Game of Thrones got shit for. One of the biggest memes I saw is the one where it's like, Arya just forgot about that. And then that got floated around in an interview and got memed into a bunch of different shit because he got asked about something, a pointed question that happened to Arya. It might not have been Arya, but he said, oh, that character just forgot. And all the audience is like, fuck you. I remember. They definitely remember. It didn't even happen to me. There's no way they forgot. And so, yes, I'm just a guy in my basement talking to my friends online. But if they're going to carve time out of their day for our world to exist only in our heads, it should at least feel more real than, oh, I forgot.
Do you feel added pressure now that our game exists in the heads of viewers? Like, is that like an extra level of like, oh man, the viewers are going to realize if I screw up? Like, do you have that now?
No. Here's why. And this is nothing against the audience, which I now think of them as. Y'all are the audience, which is cool. I am happy you're here to share this with us. But my wife warned me about this. She's like, you got to be careful that once you guys have an audience, your game shouldn't change. Because what makes your game good is that you guys all enjoy it and it seems like a sincere experience. And the moment you are, and what she was talking about is what we've seen in some other streams where the microeconomy of bits being offered to make change to a plot, to make change to a role, to make change to the name of an NPC. Oh, thank you, One Crit Wonder. Thanks for coming by. And all that, she's like, are you going to want to give them that much say, these strangers? And I was like, well, it does give them an interesting buy into the plot, but I like, and this is no offense against somebody else who wants to run their game their own way, I like the integrity of my game having a narrative feel written by a single author. Oh. She is wise. And so because of that, I want to make sure, you know, that I'm only writing for the 5. And
are we back?
That's it.
All right, I think we're back.
Okay.
This is what happens when one crit makes muffins, by the way.
What was I talking about?
One crit. We're gonna blame him today.
I got your joke. I ate that up, Plague State. That was my jam back in the day.
Oh yeah, the Homestar Runner,
Homestar
man.
Runner, man.
I still use that at work every time analyzers break.
Oh, Plague State, I have a good joke for you. It's an inside joke in our group. Legitimately, the second campaign, it would be the campaign that's not the high school nonsense. It's the campaign when we all came back after college and started playing in our 20s with something that I'm like, this is going to be the best game I'm ever going to run because in my 20s, it's going to be so good. I know what I'm doing. And I fucking didn't. But anyway, one guy was obsessed with Homestar Runner and he talked like Homestar as his own inside joke to himself all the time. So his thing, he'd always say, you're probably white. And he'd say that. Literally, like 3 or 4 games later, Clint's like, I thought he had a speech impediment. No, he just quotes Homestar all the time. So he did it so much that a guy who'd never really met him before thought that that's how he talked. So it broke us.
Thank you.
It was fantastic. Oh, hi, Zombie.
We got a new follow in that mix as well. I'm gonna not say the name though, but I saw you.
I'm not allowed to say it. Okay.
Yeah, speech impediment, man. That's funny.
Yeah,
it's the same guy who's like, I think there's something in this room.
There's something in here. Anyway, okay. So, yeah, there's definitely something in there. He's a blind character. What was I talking about?
You're talking about whether or not the audience changes your feel of running the game.
We've always had around 5 players. I collectively refer to them as the 5 or, my 5, the 5. Mm-hmm. And they are who I write for because as much as I appreciate you being here, audience, and sharing the story with us, I don't write for you. I write for them. And if you enjoy what I've written for them, awesome. And if you don't enjoy it, stick around. Maybe the plot will change in a way that you'll enjoy better. There are a bazillion games out there, and I hope you enjoy what we do. But my friends set aside time that is now that much more valuable because of wives, children, jobs, and God knows what else. Mm-hmm. I want to make that time worth their time. So I really try and put in effort towards the plot. So, yeah, that's what I write for.
Shows a lot, man.
And I think we're at a good place.
I'm getting awkward with all this butt kissing.
Where even though we've been a group that's been playing in this same world for 20 some years, it's really the current Everstorm plot is really detached from a lot of what went on before. You can hop into Everstorm without knowing anything about the previous 4 campaigns, and you're not you're not behind. You're not inside baseballing it. Yeah. There's not a lot of references to things that you're I don't know what that is. I
got a trick for you. DMs out there. Here's what you do. You keep them. Let's say the place in the world I've kept them, Trelane, is actually the UK. You keep them in the UK forever.
20 years.
And then you just move them somewhere else. And they don't know anything. They don't know anything. It's great.
Nothing.
Same
we know
world,
we're on the same plane
different
of
place.
distance.
We
knows?
weren't even sure we were in the same world for a while.
We actually thought we were dead at one point. Like, is this the afterlife? Pretty sure we're in the
Dead
afterlife.
at one point. Not in this plot. In another time, they were fucking dead. Okay,
True.
dial back. First set of the 5, which was the second campaign. Again, same one with the guy with the speech impediment joke that we thought was happening when he was a perfectly good speaker. Okay, that campaign, we kicked off with it being all a parody of the Wizard of Oz. I changed everything aesthetically, but the first encounter, they were in a giant. The first encounter was with. I took the characters and I basically treated them like they were the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, and the Scarecrow, except obviously they weren't. So one was actually playing a golem, and I just treated it like he was the Scarecrow, like he was having memory problems and stuff, and then he didn't remember who he was. And they had to help this character get his memory back. And then they came to another place where they're in a direwood and all the animals were giant. And that was like a subtle reference to the Cowardly Lion. And so in the end, they fought a pissed off druid who was referenced as the Western Storm. And that's what everybody called him, because he's the Wicked Witch of the West. And so all I did was make it a boy and make it a dwarf and called him the Western Storm. And then suddenly it wasn't the Wizard of Oz. And all of that entire beginning of that campaign, it ended with them defeating them and then being brought back to life, because that whole time they were in a version of purgatory or hell. So I've done the whole everybody's dead but don't know it thing. And it was fun. It was fun. Somebody actually figured it out. Beej figured it out partway.
Of course he would.
He was Netanyahu. It was like,
Yeah.
this is like Wizard of Oz. And I was like, oh shit, he figured it out.
They're on to me.
Yeah. The Barry's my clever player.
Yep.
Always plays a weird character.
Always.
Yes, he does.
100%. Like not even close to normal.
Weird. We will think we figured out his weird, and then he makes his weird a new sidestep weird that we did not see coming.
This is also the same player, by the way, that I referenced in an earlier episode where I had to do a romance scene with back to back because it was too awkward for the two of us to look at each other.
Fair enough. Yeah. It was. And that was before Lost. So I'm not going to say they copied me. They did. They totally did. I do like it when another cool version kind of comes out and I see something else similar. I was like, okay, then it's in the mindscape of what's out there, what people are thinking about for a cool story.
And then you see all the money it made, and you're like, that could have been me.
No. Fuck that. I don't care about the money. I was so mad about the last season. I can't get my time back.
Intensity rising.
Not even laughing. I'm fucking laughing. I don't care.
Years of your life wasted, right?
I don't care.
It seems to be happening over.
I feel about Lost how Pan there feels about Battlestar Galactica. I forgive Battlestar. That ending, I don't mind it. I'm not mad. Lost? Fuck you, Lost. I've already supported J.J. Abrams' other stuff because he does write well. The only thing that I will forgive Lost on is if we find out at the end of all of his Cloverfield stuff that somehow the island of Lost is related to Cloverfield. Then I'll be like, good, fine, good.
Matrix 3 was the one that really ruined it for me. But yeah, I'm with you on Battlestar. Yeah, the Battlestar Galactica was a stinger too. So anyway, back to Homebrew.
We got up on a tangent there. Yeah. What happened? Thanks, chat.
I appreciate you guys' intervention here, really keeping the show on task.
We have a hop in chat tonight for sure. Thank you.
It is real active.
Stopping by and for partaking and participating. That's awesome.
Loving it. Yeah. So from Homebrew standpoints, obviously with modules, you have a set amount you have to learn. You have to learn, do your reading and stuff. And then they give you some canned stuff to work around. How much time do you spend writing a game
canned
session?
Stuff? Do you mean you enter into the dungeon? The walls are mossy. You can sense an old rotten door that smells of mildew. There is a blood spatter stain on the left side of the rusty handle and a black stone on a white stone on the floor.
Pretty much.
I hate that shit.
Modules, man. The hatred. It's in there for you.
So you can see, guys, we don't tend to play modules. But anyway, how much time do you think you invest in a game session? And just preparing a campaign to start with, I guess.
A lot of it's, oh God. Well,
I know it's a ton.
It's ebbs and flows. Here's the thing. This past game and the upcoming game will require a lot of prep. I think a lot first until I find a hook or an angle that makes sense to me for story that doesn't feel like something I've done before and also lines up to how well it interweaves to the current threads. So there is always a main thread, and the main thread is the one that will be either great or dog shit, because if the players can smell the main thread, then they want to enact their free will to choose it or ignore it. And my biggest rule, besides everybody having a good time, is that free will is everything in my game. I have followed my players in any direction they want to go, because the moment they can sense that there is rails that this is on, then they might as well fucking quit and go play Skyrim, because they'll have more freedom in Skyrim than in my game. And if I can't be more free than Skyrim, fuck me, I should quit. So I believe in the free will of the player to go in any direction. The only problem is then
sometimes we're total shit.
The council of players. No, because it should be your plot, not the plot I made up. So the main spine only exists to create worldly events. And I've found more and more that I've gone from taking the main arc and thinking of that as important to thinking of it, no, it is not important. It is only important to the world. It is not important to the player. Because think about it, like, for me, there is crazy shit happening in the world that I should probably care about. But I don't. I care about my job, my wife, my kids, my hobbies. That's what I care about. I care about my tiny bubble universe. And so in that sense, inside of a game, it's even more of a bubble. We're literally talking about a game in the brain. So because of that, well, our collective brains. So because of that, the free will is that much more important. And so I now mine deeply from player backgrounds. And so what I do is I take player backgrounds of what they've written, and I take every nugget I can and ask myself, how much can I bring in? How plausible that it's here and in what form? And how many ways can I interlink the various threads so that other players will eventually find mystery in another player's background?
Yeah,
so
that's critical.
The biggest one that it turns out you were father and son and didn't know.
Right.
And that came relatively late. Yeah. Once I had two players. Oh, the same campaign in the first half, it totally fell apart because the players were self-motivated and did not give a shit about each other at the end of the day. Or sorry, the characters. And so the moment a big enough crisis event occurred, which was...
Boy, howdy.
which was Pan's character.
The worst critical botch of all time.
Critically botched to crit himself and his friend.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Murdered himself.
One shot myself.
He hit so hard compared to his own hit points, he murdered himself.
And I was a tank.
Yeah.
I was a beautiful sponge.
So the moment he dies, it became really clear that Buzzkirk was like the only thing keeping everybody together. And because he knew one other player and was buddying up to him, when that player's like, well, this guy's dead, I don't give a shit. So then the whole party dispersed. The funny thing was, Buzzkirk and another player I had linked as distant as half brothers because of a much larger plan was happening. But, you know, and family is an easy way to link things, but I didn't want to lose the idea of using family. So I just linked it in a different way with a completely different character. So
yeah, it was good stuff. Now, with you're saying you're mining character backgrounds heavily, and I think it's a smart approach. It sounds like some of our chat is doing the same thing with their homebrew. We did an episode about making good backgrounds and backstory. Now, everyone's going to have different opinions of what makes a backstory good or what are the important details. For you putting together a game, what are the sorts of things that you want from your players that I can ask you now without
mystery
asking for secrets?
Yeah, and saying, how open do you want it to be? Like, you want a certain amount of detail not in there, correct? So you have something to play with?
You need two things, a goal and mystery. I don't care what your goal is, but if you give me a goalless character, you'll have no drive to do anything. So give me something your character wants, even if all it is to wander the world and find out what's out there, or even if all it is to accrue a vast amount of money. But nobody wants money. People want money because they want something else.
Yeah.
So I personally in life want money so I can clear this debt on my house and not be concerned about drowning in debt anymore, which I am. But that's beside the point. That's the only reason I want money, is to get rid of my debt so I can live a little easier and breathe. I don't even necessarily want vast wealth. Not that would ever happen. I just want to not be worried anymore.
Right.
And that's to live comfortably. That's all I want, because really at the end of the day, I already have things I want. I just want to not worry about that one thing. So give me a goal your player wants, and give me 1, 2, as many little mysteries, things your character doesn't understand, but has a piece of. That's all I want. So
give a hook, don't give an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get really annoyed at, and you guys don't do this, but back in the days to get a lot of this was the player would say some great, crazy, powerful thing they did that doesn't make any sense why they're first level.
Yeah.
That really bothers me, because then the only way I can write that off is my favorite trope to use. I use it arguably too much. I will let a player believe anything. And then I will subtly imply to the others that thing didn't ever happen. They totally believe it. We had a character.
Thought you were going to go here.
Yep, here we go.
Oh, man.
I had a player back in the day. He told me when we were wrapping up the game, I was asking the players, what do you want your epilogue to be? Tell me kind of what your character would do after it's all said and done and you have all this power. Then it's the first time this ever happened to me. I had a character tell me he planned to capture and enslave the rest of the PCs. The rest of the characters he'd been adventuring with this entire time. And then he pursued to turn his end game into a world domination tyrannical rule.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to process that, because now if I want to give him his epilogue, I'm taking autonomy away from the other guys that earned it in their own. So I was like, the only feasible way I could do that is to let him have it. So I told him everything happened. Everything happened the way he wanted it to happen. And then in every other player's backs, I told them all, they got notified by that guy's brother. And they came in and he's like, I wanted you to know. And they see like a glass tube a la Luke Skywalker floating inside of it. We don't know what's wrong. It's the curse that's fallen down from my family line. The scions in our family are plagued with madness, and we'll do whatever we can to heal him. You need to understand, and I'm so sorry we couldn't be there. If you could please help my brother. And then he even's like, I heard you said I was crazy. I was like, you're not. You did all that. It happened. You are currently tracking one right now through the mountains.
Epilogues.
So it's like, he's crazy.
It's good.
And I love using crazy because the best, like, the reason why people love Game of Thrones so much in the books, because the books do a better job of this than the show ever did, because it's a book and you can get inside the characters' heads, is that in the books, the same event is described by separate characters and what they gleaned from the same event is different.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love throwing information always to this perspective of the player. My favorite is to do it with religion.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, believe this. And I'll turn this other guy like, these guys are crazy. They always talk to like trees in their afternoons. And you know that their god is not really a god anyway. It's a pagan demon. Yeah. And they're like, oh, fuck those demon worshippers. And I turn the guy, you gotta call my demon? No. It's a god. We know this. Your order knows it. They have proof. And so then now I've sown misinformation.
My PCs do that to my former PCs.
Yep, they sure do.
Yeah. PC, he completely disregards my previous PC's entire religion. Like they're all just a bunch of shams. Like,
they're a cult. But if you look at the facts, they kind of are a cult. They kind of are a cult. And then with the reason that formed them in the first place being suspect in general.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because the city where that was born, there'd be enough people with information to know things weren't entirely on the up and up, especially how that campaign ended. You publicly decried that the high cardinal of that faith had lied to everybody. Like, so there's a ton of misinformation surrounding that specific order, and there are towns that are rejecting them.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to acknowledge BizLab's comment here in the chat.
BizLab's got some stuff in there.
He was talking about an approach. BizLab's a guy, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, I believe so.
But anyway, he's talking about how he encourages organic backstory to happen at the table. So he asks the player to tell them what your character is doing right now, and that's it. And then during the game, when something happens, like say you crit a swim check, he'll say, this is the first time you've tried that skill. So why was your character so good at that? What was in your story that made you critically swim?
Huh.
And what was in your past that led to this? And then later on, he was saying, does the same thing with NPCs when they interact for the first time. So he'll ask his party, does anyone know this person? Yeah? Well, why? Tell me what happened before that you know.
Okay.
And flesh out the world in that form of improv. That's interesting. I don't know we've really done it that way. I think
we've never done it that way.
I think we've indirectly done that in some, but
I think about my character in those kind of terms.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do that a lot internally with my own characters. Like when I build my characters or when I role play my characters, I do a lot of that internally myself. Like I don't make Levi do that job. I do that myself. And I'm like, why does Balron do this? Or why is Balron so attuned to doing that? Like, why is this what comes out of me when I play him in these situations? And so I do a lot of, I guess, feedback myself in that own way when I think about it, like between games.
Metacognition. Yeah. Thinking about what you're thinking about.
Right.
Why is the most important question. I avoid pretty much all the other ones. The reason I have tons of extra stuff written on characters and places and things is because my background is pretty much an actor. Not that I'm an actor, but like I was a drama kid in high school, and I'm pretty self-centered in my viewpoint on things. So if I don't understand why anybody does anything, I have to first ask myself if I were them. Like very golden rule. I have to think about if I were them, does it make sense why they would make that choice? And then I can understand, which is very egocentric, but it's what it is. I'm 39 at this point. I'm egocentric. So I have to write all my NPCs that way too. So I have to know why they're doing what they're doing, or I can't justify why they're doing it. And and that's everything in my game. I don't know.
It's awesome. We got
So
some
let me
new
ask
people
you
in the chat.
this.
This is great.
While Jeff's going through the chat there, you say like you follow the players, like where we want to go, you kind of follow us in those ways. How much do you want to know about where we think we're going? Like, how much of that feedback do you want before we get there? Like, I know you kind of enjoy the improv part of it.
No, I like.
Want to know where the characters are going? Like, I dropped some stuff on you about what Bowron's thinking and what he might do. Like,
I love
you
all
want
that stuff.
ahead of time? I mean,
I love all
you
that
didn't
stuff.
really respond. I know you saw it. But
I'm sorry. No, I love all that stuff. Here's the thing. I love knowing all of what the players think and where they're going. I don't want the players to necessarily share that with each other. Unless they are inclined to do that. So I love the private conversations of my character's motivated by this. I'm thinking this. As long as I know what you're thinking, I know how to plan accordingly. But I don't necessarily want the other players to know if you wouldn't tell them. So, for example, like I was big on, I prefer organic gameplay to drive experience. I have a hard time with forced background stuff. Example, you start a new game and say, oh, hey, Jeff here, we're going to play brothers. We've grown up together. And then within about 2 games, you can tell you're only brothers in a fake way, like 2 bad actors on stage, like pretending to be like siblings that pick on each other. You're picking a very tropey way brothers interact that isn't really tied to shared experience or memories, whereas a better way is that you wrote 3 pivotal moments in your childhood as brothers, and then you both agreed these things happened, and here's how I felt about you, my brother, after it. Like, that would be better, because then you'd at least you're basing it off of things that happened, not the ways brothers interact. And I don't like that tropiness. So that's why with this game, we ran a couple 0 games where you guys literally met.
Yeah.
And none of you knew each other. And that was better, because now all your experiences together have legitimately happened. None of you have any pre-fake memories of each other. And I'm never going back. I am never going back to anything like that, because all the organic relationships are more real than telling me fake memories you never had.
I kind of assumed, and maybe now I'm realizing I wrongly assumed, that those 2 separate game zeros and all of us making our characters blind was to prevent the player tendency to worry about niches.
Yeah.
I'm the healer, you're the tank, you're the caster.
Yep.
Like, we all went in blind, not knowing what each other made this time around.
Well, you guys always talked about group composition, and here comes a DM philosophy issue. Group comp doesn't matter.
Bet that it really doesn't. It's really...
No, any ed. It does not matter. It only matters if you have a DM who has turned the game into a gauntlet of challenges where they intend to create an impartial system that could kill you.
Right.
I have never been that DM. I've always been
Dungeon
a gray
dives.
flex area. I care more about story. Now, if you die in a fight, you die in a fight. But I've never designed it to be something that is going to kill you. So because of that, if your group comp is all 5 of you are fighters and you have no healer, boom, there may be more healing potions in the campaign in general. Or you may pick up a heal monkey sidekick who can heal, which this party got, and you guys have told him, stay on the boat and cook.
That's because I have heals and they think I'm going to do it, and that's how wrong they are.
Point is, I will adjust accordingly because I am a Skyrim AI that can adjust to the party. So I would rather you guys make player choices for choosing your character based on what you want instead of having to fill a role.
Yeah.
And that group comp discussion always happened these past few campaigns, and I wanted to avoid it entirely.
Yeah, and then so for me, I've always been of the mindset as a DM that there isn't anything group comp that can't be fixed with scrolls and potions.
Yeah.
Like you can
Really?
scroll and potion by giving scrolls and potions to the party. You can get around most of those
All of it.
niche roles that people
Like-
think they have to fit into. Like
all
you
of
can
it.
pretty much bypass most of it. So
Yeah.
I've always been a fan of, if they don't have a healer and you don't want somebody to be forced to feel like they have to play healer,
Yeah.
things like that, just potion and scroll your way right out.
Nobody should feel forced to be anything. And if
Yeah,
you
I agree with
are
that.
good at getting around cleverness, then all 5 are fighters, fucking awesome. Then, throw them a couple interesting, like, anti-mage things along the way. Like, things that allow them to be really effective against the caster here and there. And that's what makes for interesting gameplay. It makes it for... No one should ever feel like they have to be something. Man, I'll tell you what, our Clint has tried to be a healer. And...
yeah, it didn't work.
Oh, my God. The hatred he has for healing.
And he's currently the party's best healer. Just so it's
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, ironically he is right now.
he's the best healer of the group right now too. But you don't think of him as that.
Yeah, it's really interesting how you tried. Yeah, question mark. Yeah, people in gaming sometimes they like to branch out and try different things, and some people just know what they like and what they don't like. And if you know you won't enjoy something, just
Don't do it.
you're not going to enjoy it. Just don't do it. You know?
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, Cam's doing a cool move this time, and some would argue against it. Okay, everybody. Cam is our least actory player. He just doesn't get big into the acting side of it. He likes conversations. He likes the tactics. He likes the social puzzles, and he loves investigation, and he loves combat. But he doesn't necessarily like saying, my guy's got a funny voice and I have this tragic backstory. So the funny thing with Cam that we give him shit about is that all of his characters sound like him. It sounds like Cam that shoots fireballs. It sounds like Cam that throws ninja chakrams, right? It was a ring thing.
Yeah,
a chakram. It wasn't ninja stars. And he even tried to get outside of his box and he said, in this game, I'm going to be the front man. I'm going to be a lord. I'm going to be a lord's third son, and I'm going to be very social. And once we put him in social situations, we were deferred that he was the leader because of the situation. He's a guild leader. He did not love doing it. Like, he didn't love it. He liked the combat side, but he didn't like that part. So this time around, he's a genius. Cam in real life is a huge musician. So he made his guy a musician, and incorporating his own love of music into his character. Morgaine is one of the best Cam characters he's ever run, because he infused the player's real passion for something into the character. And knowing he loves it, I have leaned hard into the music side of Morgaine. More than anything for him.
Considering he's not a bard.
That's one of the best parts of it.
I love it. There are
I'm
many
sure
musicians that are
Later,
not bards.
Stonefly.
He finally played a bard, and you're like, no, he's actually not a bard.
He's not a bard. He's the not bard.
Yeah, you don't have to be a bard to play music or tell a story,
No, you don't.
or to have the performance skill. I mean, my wizard has performance.
Yeah.
Tells stories.
And that's one of the great things I think that people just got to do more. Like, sometimes, like, you can base your character off of
Anything.
It doesn't have to be off your character class or off of your prime maneuver or the set of skills that you got from your class. You pick the skill, and that's
Hey, youngins out there. Back in the day, there's a movie called Conan the Barbarian. Here's the best part. The only time Conan is asked who he is, he says, I am Conan, a thief. He calls himself a thief.
That's true.
At no point does he reference himself as a barbarian. I don't think he even says it once.
Yeah, see, that's something I'm interested in doing one day, is running a campaign around like a thieves guild, but not necessarily everybody's a rogue.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
And having like sorcerers and wizards and, fighters and brutes.
I was going to say, what you'll get some fighters, because really, fighters are kind of the best everything right now. Like,
well, I thought it'd be kind of neat to do kind of a roguey style game, but have it set in like an evil empire. So then even paladins and clerics that are good aligned have a reason to be part of this underbelly of this society.
That's cool.
And see how people kind of play with this concept of thieves guild and like, the darker part of the city, I guess, in a way, you know, like the black markets and stuff within a society.
Yeah.
So kind of a little bit rebel-y, a little bit Thieves Guild, you know?
Yeah.
And see how
That's
that
good
plays.
stuff.
So that maybe when I run something next, I think that's what I'm going to try to do.
So we're getting some chat in here. Grouch Couch says he made a tune called Gorag the Barbarian, and he would only say his name. And that kind of
That's
reminds me of a
perfect.
character that you once made for our games, Levi. Why can I think started with a G? He frequently was a large oak.
Gundar.
Gundar, yes. Very close to Gundar. Yes. Oh, we get the Gundar voice for a little bit.
Yeah, that's when I thought I was really original. Gundar would perform the Gilmore, which was a Happy Gilmore line drive to people's face with a club. And I thought that was the height of originality. You know what would be so original? Stealing a move from a modern movie and putting it in my game.
And by modern, we're talking late 90s.
Yeah. Gundar's still out there.
Yeah, it does sound a little bit like Persona 5. I actually had no idea about that series, by the way, which is it's a video game, for those of you who don't know. It's an interesting turn-based game. It's a very strange style. My sister actually showed it to me, randomly, and it's a really cool setting. It's like weird masks and stuff people are wearing, and their personalities, and they're like just doing day-to-day activities, like going to school and stuff, but then they're fighting monsters in this other weird realm. It's really freaking styled and really cool.
Awesome.
That wasn't what I was going for, but that's an interesting take.
So Levi, let's move on a little bit to making quality bad guys for your homebrew game.
I love
Kind of
making
went with
villains.
this now.
And if you want to hear that conversation where we go with how to make bad guys quality and awesome, you're going to have to tune in for the next part. And it'll be out soon here on YouTube. If you enjoyed yourself, you thought you learned something, you wanted to hang out with us more, leave us a like, let us know you're enjoying this, and subscribe to make sure you don't miss anything. And also turn on that notification thing. Definitely the most important. Check us out live sometime on Monday nights at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time on Twitch at TT2KB. See you there.